Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel, The Plantagenet. I'm glad you could be with me today. Today I'm going to talk to you about my primary hobby, which is the collecting of livery buttons. If you've ever seen a episode of Downton Abbey, or that'd probably be the best one, or any of the Pride and Prejudice, Death Comes to Pemberley type things, you will know that the aristocratic families of the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s had servants. And those servants wore a uniform called a livery uniform, which generally done in the colors of the family's coat of arms. On those uniforms, the buttons would have the family crest of the family. They would have, sometimes it would be a full coat of arms, sometimes it would be as simple as a monogram, sometimes it would have a coronet of rank. Using the symbolism on each individual button and the back marks with the manufacturer, you can sometimes trace a button from the, just the beautiful button in front of you to an individual family, an individual house, sometimes some of the more famous houses, all the way up, to a particular person, a particular lord, sometimes a baronet, sometimes someone who is quite historically significant. It's that research aspect that I find the most interesting about the hobby. The journey from a pretty button in your hand to the story that it will tell you over time. So I will show you a couple buttons, tell you a little bit about individual buttons, and we'll see if it's something that YouTube finds. Towards the end of the video, I may do like a mail call unboxing kind of thing. I've got quite a bit of stacked up mail, so maybe we'll see if you guys.
Okay, so this is the first button we're going to talk about. This button is a eagle's head charged with a star. They call it a mullet, but it's a star. And then in its mouth is what they call a benzant, which is basically a penny or a coin of some sort. So this button was used in the house of C.J. Soffer Whitburn, Esquire. This was a pretty easy one to research with my books and information. He lived at 16 Ensamore Gardens in South Kensington, London, which is basically a row house, but calling it a row house is a bit lacking in what the house actually was. It's a very fine house. It would be on par with a very nice ground floor Manhattan apartment kind of thing. But I think this is a pretty button. This is one of my favorites. Soffer Whitburn was not a lord. He was not a baronet. He wasn't an earl. He was a businessman, and he started at the entry-level office boy, and when he died, he was a very shrewd businessman and very much a millionaire in the late 1800s. So this button is probably about 125, 130 years old, with very nice patina on it. Everything's correct. Everything's nice. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is one of my favorite buttons. This is a recent acquisition. It is a full coat of arms with an earl's coronet at the top. It's got two cranes as supporters with a motto "Firm" at the bottom, and then the full coat of arms in the middle. It's an older button. This one is a Kirkwood button. That we can kind of get a feel for the way these are made. The date, I would say this one is very early. In this case, it would be, because of the dated of the person that it was, it's dated anywhere from 1776 to 1864. So you're looking at 150 to 200-year-old button. One of the reasons I really like this button is because on this side, the crane is very much in excellent condition. However, on this side, you can see that the crane is very worn. What this basically means is that it's a this button was consistently rubbed on this side by the servant that buttoned it on the uniform. So, you get that wear pattern that is unique to this piece. And I really like the way it is on this particular button because you still get to see, you still have the wear, but you still get to see the quality of the manufacturer, the details of the crest and the coat of arms. This particular button is attributed to North Hamilton Dalrymple, the 9th Earl of Stair, again 1776 to 1864. He was the chief of Clan Dalrymple in Oxford Castle in Scotland, Midlothian, Scotland. So this is a really great button. I had a member of this family offer to buy this button from me. I couldn't let it go. Normally, if I have doubles, I will definitely entertain that. I love to give heirlooms back to families, but I couldn't let this one go. I had just purchased it, and I paid quite a lot for it. But it's a nice button. It is probably in my top 25 of my collection. So we'll move on to the next one. So this is an Irish button. It is quite old. This one is made by Foley and Crocker in Dublin. You can see the supporters. It's a darkened button. This particular one, I can't tell if it's a mourning button or if it's just the patina that's developed over the years. This one is attributed to Augustus Frederick Fitzgerald, the 3rd Duke of Leinster. He lived at Carton House, Maynooth County, Kildare, Ireland. Again, I call this my Crama Boo button because the motto at the bottom is an Irish battle cry, Crama Boo. It's basically, Castle Crom. It's a great button. I date this one to probably early mid 1800s. This is probably 175 years old. I mean, this is the type of button I get into this for, because it's a phenomenal button. It's got monkeys as supporters. It's got the Duke's coronet at the top. It's got the full coat of arms, the motto. The monkeys actually have to do with a family motto of the Duke of Leinster. It's just a phenomenal button. There's a lot of stories with this one that I enjoy. So move on to the next one. So this is a very interesting button, mostly because of the story involved. This, just like when you do genealogy, stories that you hear and stories that you learn about are not always good stories. This particular button is attributed to Sir Richard Croft. The British people who might watch this will be very aware who Sir Richard Croft was. He was the obstetrician and doctor for Princess Charlotte in the early 1800s. He was responsible for basically the death of the heir to the British throne in 1817. 1818. He, through a series of errors, through a series of, ill-advised maneuvers, he ended up being, quote, responsible, at least in his mind, for the death of Princess Charlotte and her son, and ended up killing himself in London. This one does not have a back mark. It is a very early button. You're looking at 1817, 1818 is when he offed himself. So you're looking at a button that's, very much every bit of 200 years old. Again, a sad story, a sad button, but it is definitely a dramatic crest. He's got the crowns on the wings and the dragon and the chimera. He's got the eagle claws. It's a very interesting crest. I'd have to look up the actual heraldic definition of the crest, but it's a interesting story of a button. All right, so we got some mail here. We'll go ahead and open it. All right, so this package is from California. This is going to be a livery button. This button is pretty neat. It's got a crown with the plumes like the Prince of Wales, but it has this like ostrich leg. I haven't really researched this button yet, but it's certainly a interesting design. The maker on it is one I've never heard of. It's Nortzel and Broughton on Fleet Street. Interesting. Yeah, not a maker I recognize, but certainly a very interesting button and worth going in the collection. All right, let's move to the next one. All right, this piece of mail is from Michigan. Not sure what's going to be in this one. Let's see. That's a button. I don't know which one. Let's see. So these are severely overpacked. This is going to be a really, really nice unicorn. It's a unicorn's head erased, I believe, inside of a coronet. Absolutely a magnificent button. This one's made by Furman & Sons. Probably 1880s, 1890s if my memory serves, based on the back mark. But it is absolutely beautiful design on that one. Alright, this one is going to be from Canada. Again, not altogether sure what to expect in this one. Oh, this is a lion. Again, quite a bit overpacked, but I would rather it be overpacked than underpacked. So this one is cool because it has a very, very fancy border. This reeded edge on here is not very common. I believe this is an Earl's coronet. Should be fairly easy to research this one. It'll have an Earl's coronet, and then it will have the family crest, which is a rampant lion with a crown. Again, a Furman button, 1880s, 1890s probably. Okay, this package is from the UK. And I actually know what this one is, and I'm like fairly excited about it. I try to keep good terms with people that that buy and sell these livery buttons. Listen, this guy left me a nice little note, which is nice. It's always nice when you get a little bit of gift wrapping. Mail day feels quite a bit like Christmas sometimes. I actually like that. I like that paper. This is not a livery button. However, it is very much on par with what I do collect. So this button is a sterling silver hand engraved hunt button. This would be part of the hunting. There we go. It'd be part of the hunting uniform of probably the servants, but it may have been on a hunting jacket for the people who actually visited. It's going to be a Furman button with very nice Furman hallmarks, which you don't see very often. I know this button, it's going to go with several of my Earl Fitzwilliam buttons. So this is Fitzwilliam Hunt. Basically just means Fitzwilliam hunting. It's got the crest for the Earl Fitzwilliam, who is rather famous for the Wentworth Woodhouse in England. Pride and Prejudice and a lot of the other movies were filmed there. I'm very, very happy to buy this button. This one was very expensive as far as these buttons go, given that it's sterling silver, hand engraved, and it comes from a very famous family. But you got Earl Fitzwilliam and Fitzwilliam Hunt. So this trio of buttons, I wanted to show you guys since we just did the mail call for this silver button. So this is the Fitzwilliam Hunt button for the Hunt Club. Probably the Hunt Club at Wentworth Woodhouse. However, it could have been one of their country houses that were farther north for hunting. Again, hallmarked Furman button. Very nice button. Has quite a bit of silver weight to it. Solid silver. Hand engraved. Fairly thick. Very nice button. The reason I bought this button, even though it's a hunt button and not a livery button, was that I already owned this button, which is an Earl Fitzwilliam button. This would be the 6th Earl Fitzwilliam, William Thomas Spencer Wentworth Fitzwilliam. Again, he lived at the Wentworth Woodhouse, probably the most famous house in the world. It's certainly the largest house that I've ever even heard of. It was actually for sale recently, but there's a lot of repairs that need to be done to the house. But it's got the Earl's coronet at the top, and then it's got the two crests for Wentworth and Fitzwilliam. So when you see two crests on a button, it means the name's hyphenated. So it would be Wentworth is the crown with the 5 plumes, and then Fitzwilliam is the griffin in this particular case. I also have his son's button that was probably around the same time because it's made very similarly. It would be for Viscount Milton, who would have been the 6th Earl Fitzwilliam's son. William Wentworth Fitzwilliam, also called Viscount Milton, died in 1877, which was before his father died. So he never inherited the earldom. So he was always Viscount Fitzwilliam. So I already had Earl Fitzwilliam and his son, both of Wentworth Woodhouse. So I really thought that getting a button of their Hunt Club, especially a solid silver one that's hand engraved, would be a very nice touch to round out the trio. So occasionally I will divert a little bit from my collection for the sake of a set, but this is something very special. I have a predilection towards the Wentworth Woodhouse because of my fondness for Pride and Prejudice and all that kind of stuff. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I haven't bored you too much.
Very much in the experimental stage with the channel right now, so tell me what you guys like. If you find me completely boring, that's fine. Please don't be too mean. If you find me interesting, like, subscribe, hit buttons. If not, that's okay. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching my video.